GG. It is completed. Completion. We have completed the book. And it's finished after all these years of saying that I'm gonna finish this book and read this book and all of the things. We have finally completed that, and now it is done. By the way, if you're wondering why this took me so long to read, I just get a lot of inspiration from this series, something about the characters, and so I tend to not actually sit down and read it, but skim a small section, and then it would spark my brain, and I'd go off and paste and whatever. But I did finally finish it and sit down and read it for the first time ever. This book, it is a good book. If you have not heard of it, I don't know how you wouldn't have not heard of it, but it is a good book and you should read it. And you should watch the TV show. I prefer the TV show, not because I think that it's better than the book, but just because I grew up watching the TV show before I knew there were books, and so I just am more mentally attached to it. Working. It's a middle grade book, and I think that middle graders should read it. I think that is a very good book to read. I give it 5 stars. This book has many great positive messages: bravery, loyalty, friendship, keeping the peace, balancing that with fighting to keep the peace. This book handles that theme very well, balancing fighting with peace. It's full of adventure and charm and amazingness. Any young boy would probably enjoy this. The way I have this placed, it's just catching the light. And how do I undo this? If I put it on this side, it's better. No, it's not. I would definitely say it is an older middle grade. I might say need to be a minimum of 10 to 12 depending on the kid. It's a book filled with battle scenes and bad guys, and though there's nothing super graphic in it or anything, there is definitely, in reading this, there was definitely a couple points where I was like, this is a middle grade book? Okay. And there is some light swearing by the bad guys. I enjoyed, and you will too. And to sum up, it is a good book with some very good themes. Why am I repeating myself? Just read it. Thoughts, opinions. I do have them. I heavily enjoyed watching Matthias go through his arc and become who he is. Go from being the little novice to the big warrior. It was very satisfying and encouraging to watch. But I think it came a bit easy for him. One thing that I think the show genuinely did better than the book is the balancing of the war and the peace. In the book, as soon as Clooney showed up, all of these peaceful mice are just like, yeah, we will fight this person. And then they just immediately follow this kid. Just immediately. No questions asked. In the show, I feel like it went a little bit better. I liked how in the show we had Abbott Mortimer to be more on the peace side and argue for gentleness and peace. And then we had Constance over here to argue for the necessariness of fighting. But in this book, everyone was so easily accepting of the fact that they were going to fight him. And then just immediately followed Matthias. He's like a kid in this. I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be 13. This is an abbey filled with elders, filled with people, filled with grown-ups, and we're just following this kid immediately. I like it, but I wish it hadn't come so easily. Clooney clearly has a god complex. And speaking of God, I like how this book just shows that God fights your battles for you. Because honestly, can we honestly say that Matthias would have beat Clooney in that final battle if Clooney had not spent the whole book being traumatized by dreams? It's debatable, but also is it? Speaking of that final battle scene, excellently written. Very impressed with that battle scene. It was very well done, very intense, very worthy of reading this whole book to get to that climax. Liked that he was crushed by Belle instead of just simply slain. I like that it took both bronze and cunning to defeat him. And throughout this whole book, that's great. Both sides are equally cunning, equally strong. It's not the good guys are smart and clever and the bad guys are dumb. Clooney is very smart. He's a very smart, very powerful villain, and it makes him a really good villain. 10 out of 10 on the villainy, the villain. It is a true battle of wits and brawn throughout the whole thing, and it's great. I like the humor in this book. I like that it's kept up throughout all the hard times between the characters, between everyone. They keep up a good sense of humor no matter what happens, and it's great. Another thing that I don't like about what I know of the Redwall series as a whole, because this is the only book I've read, but I've watched the whole series, which is based on, I think, this one, the third book, and then another one, Martin the Warrior, which I know is not any of the first 5, so I don't know which one it is. But there is an extreme lack of redemption arcs in this series that I know of. The closest thing we have to it is, was it Feldo, the name of the dormouse? The dormouse that let them in? But does that count? Does that count? Honestly, in this series, if you do anything remotely wrong, you're dead. You show some cowardice, you show some selfishness, ultimately you're just going to end up dying in these books. It's the death penalty for you to do anything wrong. There's so many opportunities for redemption arcs. Shadow, he got into the Abbey, got ditched by the Thing, Clooney. Excellent start to an excellent redemptive arc. He dies. There's so many villains in the Redwall series. And there's several kind of lovable villains even. Villains, nevertheless. But like, no redemption arcs. I love redemption arcs. Just heavily disappointed at the extreme lack of redemption arcs, considering that there's like 50 million bad guys in every Redwall book. It's a whole army, and like the best redemption arc we have is, I don't think his name's Feldo. I think I'm thinking of a different character. But the Dormouse. You know who I'm talking about. I liked the epilogue. I like that Madameo is referenced at the end of this book, because in the TV series, Madameo is my favorite character. The characters in this series are just, honestly, I don't even know what it is about them, because I don't feel like they are particularly deep, because again, like, no one is really flawed, because if they were flawed, they'd die. They'd get killed off, because that's just the rules of the series. Like, none of them are particularly flawed, but for some reason, I really love all the characters. I like Cornflower and Constance. You can't not love Basil, whatever, how you pronounce that. Abbot Mortimer, Methuselah. It's just great. The book has many good twists and turns, and I like it, and it's good. And I feel like I should say more about it, but I'm kind of out of thoughts. I think this book is just really a really good book. It's a middle grade book, and it stays middle grade, but at the same time, it doesn't shy away from the reality of a battle, and I appreciate that. As much as I don't usually like violence, I do appreciate that. And I appreciate that it is in a story where we can look and learn the difference between being a defender and being a bully. And that is what I think the big takeaway for the day is just difference between being the bad guy and being the good guy that's protecting everyone from the bad guy. The lines that you don't cross because you are the good person and not the bad person, and the necessity of knowing how to fight battles when they come, and only when they come to you, and not you go to them. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm excited to read the next book, because the second book was not in the TV show, and I've never read it before, so it's going to be the first time in a while that I've gotten a new experience from this series that I really love. I hope that I convinced you to read it if you haven't yet. Comment down below what book you're reading right now and what you think of this book if you have read it. Like, subscribe, and all that garbage. Goodbye.